You're listening to So Organised Style podcast. So Organised Style is produced by me, Maria Theoharis, Susan Goodwin, and Anne Wally. Meridy Dunn, the woman behind Groovy Grey Look on Instagram, chatted to Anne and myself recently. Now our chat went for quite a while, so this is part 1, focusing on frocktails in Adelaide. Hi Meridy.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Hello, Anne.
Hello, how are you, Meridy?
I'm good. Nice to. I've got to stop yelling because it's just me in the house.
Oh.
Nice to finally talk to you.
Yes, I was just saying to Maria, I said, I feel as if I know her very well, but we've never heard each other's voices for some reason. So it's great to have you today. How exciting.
Yeah, and you look fabulous in real life as well.
Oh,
you do. You both do.
Yeah. And Maria, nice to meet you.
Same here.
I've done my homework on you today.
We're both each other's biggest fans, I think, now.
Yes, we are. We really are. And the other lady, Susan, I looked at her site too.
Susan Goodwin.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
At least you know who you're talking to, so to speak.
I do, yes.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit intimidated knowing how much experience is down the other end of the phone with you two in the same room.
Oh, well, we might be feeling a little bit intimidated by your latest jumpsuit, Meridy.
My 80s.
It's so fabulous. You look amazing, and you can tell as soon as, I mean, I wasn't there when you got dressed, but yes. I bet that it was something that gave you energy as soon as you jumped in.
I did. I had a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. Having your own disco party.
The reason I contacted you, Meridy, was because it is Meridy, isn't it?
It is Meridy, yes. Good. It's never been shortened. I've tried, but it's a name that doesn't really shorten.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Was Adelaide Frocktails?
Yes. So would you like me just to tell you about how it all came about?
Yes, please, because was it your first one in Adelaide, or am I wrong?
It was. Yeah, it was.
Woo-hoo.
So about 12 months ago, August last year, I'd been on Instagram a couple of years, but I was just starting to find that sewing is where I ended up. I wasn't quite sure if I was into fashion or sport or reading, all of them. And all of a sudden I found myself really following lots of sewing people. And I started to look for people in Adelaide because, we're South Australia, because just nice to know who's about. And I made friends, three of us kind of all started following each other at once. And that was Elizabeth, who goes by the name of Betty Howlett, at This Girl Sews, and Fiona, who is at Curious Fee. So we just started to chat a little bit, and then Elizabeth, or Betty, is also an artist, so she's quite a prolific painter. And she was having an exhibition with Sala, which is the South Australian Living Artist.
Right.
And I asked her if I could come to her exhibition. And so did Fiona. And it was actually, the exhibition was at the Ark. So the Ark is Victorian. It's a dress chain. There's about 3 or 4 of them in Victoria.
Okay.
And they have one here. So they've got beautiful clothes, actually. And they had it here. So along we went. We didn't know each other. And we met that night. And it was quite a funny experience, actually, because it was a bit like this. We felt we knew each other, but it can be a little bit awkward because you don't really know each other. And so it's kind of unusual but fantastic. So that started the friendship. That then we got together and had coffee and thought, well, how can we extend this friendship into our community? And how do we find people that are sewing in South Australia?
Yeah.
So that was the beginning, and the way we sought people out was really by Insta messaging initially. We'd just see somebody had tagged the location South Australia, and we'd say, hello, we're going to start a group called Adelaide Sewists. would you like to be involved? And yes. So it was very, what's the word? We were going about it the hard way, if you like, just picking up people from their location.
Sometimes people call it organic.
Yeah, organic. Well, then we kind of got together and thought, let's plan some events. We didn't really do this slowly. We just planned out 12 months of events, picked dates, wrote loosely what they'd be about, and started sending out messages. Then we got a bit more sophisticated, and the girls used the app is called Slack, and I don't particularly like it, but I think people use it a lot for meetings. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
No. How do you?
Yeah.
Is it spelled SL?
SLACK.
Right. Okay.
But it's. I think it's a little bit messy, but the younger ones quite like it. They talk on it a lot during the weekend. So they discuss sewing issues and sewing problems that they're having, or seek advice. So it's really good like that, because it's not a broad, it's not like Instagram where a lot of people can get on the other end of the message,
conversation.
Yeah. And then we started the Adelaide Sewists Instagram page at the same time.
Oh, so, I didn't know.
Yeah. So that really is just a vehicle for getting people up to date with events. And I really just repost everybody sews there with their permission, of course. And it's really just keep your eye on this page for what's coming up.
Oh, that's a good use. That's a great idea.
Yeah. So we're not a big group. We don't really know. There's about 200 followers, and a lot of them are silent. They're just, they live here, but they're not posting. And then since the frocktails, it's grown substantially. It was like, we are here. We're here now. But leading up to that, the very first thing we did was at Christmas last year, and we went out for dinner. And there were 20 of us at that dinner, and that kind of got the ball rolling. And I'm sure you girls have done it. It's quite unusual. You just all get together and you just think, wow, did you make that? And then that sort of starts this hours and hours of talking about sewing.
That's right. And sometimes you can recognise what someone's made by the name of the pattern.
Yes. It's a whole new language, really, isn't it?
It's kind of heartwarming and yet scary.
Yeah, yes.
Your hair looks lovely anyway, just from FYI.
I'm mother of the bride in 8 weeks.
Ooh.
So I have to get my hair just right. You know what it's like. Ridiculous, but anyway. So to get onto Frocktails, we actually sat down and we organised the coffee get-togethers, which was very relaxing and fun. And it was just more of the same kind of talk. And then we organised a fabric swap.
Ooh,
they're fun.
And that was fantastic.
Yeah.
That was really good. Probably one of the most satisfying things, actually. I've never been to one before.
Oh, they're awesome.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. I didn't take any fabric, but because I've got so much, as in I donated some, but I didn't take any home. But I did. Somebody bought all these 80s Vogue designer patterns in.
Oh.
So I just sort of I wasn't greedy, but
sure, Meridy, sure.
Restrained.
Nobody else picked them up. I thought, you fools.
Yeah. But it's one person's treasure is another person's not treasure. We won't call it the other word because we are talking about patterns and we do love them.
Yeah. Well, then I think, and I'm sure you've had experience with this, but then I was able to post so many outfits that people had made with their swapped fabric.
Oh, and awesome.
Then I was tagging the person that donated the fabric. So
that's good.
Made up. Yeah, it was good. And then after that, we had more coffee, and as in another event, and then the Frocktails. So I actually spoke to Anna Blogs Anna.
Blogless Anna.
In Melbourne.
Yes.
Because I'd seen that she'd been involved in Melbourne Frocktails, and I just thought, I need some advice. And when you Google it, you really only get American stuff.
Oh, right.
Well, mostly
They
it's
copied us.
That's right.
They do. And anyway, so she's just allayed some of my anxieties. And so the three of us just got busy organising that, and we actually limited the seats because we weren't sure how many would go. And it sold out very quickly, so we know next year we need to make it bigger. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Meridy, you know, you are talking to Maria, who has been to 3 states so far with frocktails, and it sounds like Adelaide might be one that could be on there, Maria.
Oh, it's on my list.
That'd be lovely, Maria.
It's just that when I saw it, I thought, gosh, that was so close to another one that I'd already booked in for. Do you want to just explain a little bit about Adelaide in relation to how big or what sort of a city it is? Because this podcast goes international.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Adelaide itself is not a big Australian city. I think we're probably about 1.5 million now, but we're at this stage still very easy to get around. So people can go from one side of the town to the other in the half an hour, you know, sort of. So most of our we did have quite a few people from the country. Now, that's another thing, of course, for the international people. So the country's 5 or 6 hours in the car. But locally, small city, a lot of festivals here because it's all in walking distance and the venues are very close to each other. And the
Tour Down Under's there every January, I know that.
And the Fringe Festival's second only to the Edinburgh Festival, so which is very similar. I had the pleasure of going to Edinburgh last year and had a look, and their layout's pretty similar, much older, of course, but all lovely and convenient. So we had people from all over that came, and so it's not like trying to get into the middle of Sydney or Melbourne.
Yeah, we get that.
Dropped off and picked up.
Oh, I still do, Meridy. I get Bruce to make sure he's working that night and he can pick me up on the tram. However, I have to be on the ball to catch that tram because he won't wait, he says.
No.
So neither will anyone else.
How big are your frocktails in Melbourne?
Well, this one's bigger. This one coming up, I think they limited to about 100, give or take. Don't quote me. Yeah. And that was a wise move. But now this time it is a lot bigger. So I don't know how many are actually going to be there. I'll find out.
Yeah, I think they're aiming for about 150. I could be wrong. This one will be double. Yeah.
Is that just a cocktail setting?
Yes.
Nibbles and
nibbles.
drinks?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's what we did.
Yeah, I think it works out better than sitting down.
Yeah,
because you can't mingle and your dress gets creased.
Yes,
you don't want to be ironing all night.
No.
And do you have any prizes or?
Yes. Oh yes. Did you get a lot of sponsorship for your first frocktails?
We did. We had one, and that was a really good sponsor, and it was the drapery. I don't know if you've.
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
so that's got a lot of lovely organic fabrics and really nice ladies, and they actually came, so they had a good night too. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Wow.
Yeah, but we didn't go seeking sponsorship except from them.
Oh wow, that's good.
Oh well, we've hit the jackpot. We'll just stay with that.
So it was a local function supported by a local business.
Yes, yeah, and obviously there was a charge per head, but people purchased their own drinks, and it was just for the food. Yeah, it was really lovely, and everybody had gone to so much work to wear a dress. Even I wore a dress. I who doesn't wear dresses.
Photos looked good.
Got them. Yes.
Yeah, it felt all right.
Well, you know, we're on the map as far as frocktails go with the world. I think well, not me, but definitely it was started in Melbourne by some very innovative sewists, and then it's spread, and I think really we are the Mecca. We are.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's really fabulous. Great idea. Whoever made that name up should have patented.
Yeah, I think Kat should have.
Yeah, really good.
Oh, well, it's to be shared because at the end of the day, I suppose, we just want to share what we wear and have an excuse to dress up and not have to listen to who won the football, those kind of things.
So do you have an organising committee, or are you a organisation at all, like the other frocktails?
They've got 2 new people. It seems to me that in the past there's been a few people who have started, and then it's been a lot of work, and they've had to take a seat, and then other people that have jumped in to do the volunteer. It's hard work. You've got to go out and you've got to test all those cocktails, and really, who's got that much time?
But the cocktails have to be tested out,
Yeah.
I think in Brisbane there's Colette and Amy and I think one other person. In Sydney it's one person, and I think in Melbourne at the moment it's 2. So it's
a big job.
It's a big job, yeah. And I just take my hat off to all the organisers because they're all fabulous, and the nice thing is that they do get sponsored, which is really great for us who go there. And
Yeah. Well, we're having another one at Christmas, but it won't be frocktails, but it will be Christmas themed. But the same type of just snacks and purchase your own drinks and chit chat. Because we've had a lot of people say that they really they'd missed out and they wanted to do something. So, but it's obviously not as big as what you're having there. So I think we had 30 to our frocktails.
Oh, that's lovely. That's a
good number.
Yeah, and we'll probably do the same thing about Christmas, I think. Yeah, but we've booked that. So, yeah.
I think that's lovely is that so many Instagram, comments I might read and someone will say, oh, I'd love to make something lovely like frosting, but I've got nowhere to wear it. Yeah. So it's great to have an event where you actually wear something you've made, you've got a reason to wear it, and you can talk about the story behind it, which is just, it's always a struggle, isn't it?
Yeah. It's nice. I just wear mine, what I make in the bedroom, Anne, with my disco music on, my tripod.
Love it.
Your dance partner. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me, what was, how did you, being part of the organisational crew, how did you handle with the flitting around from person to person and catching the people on the outside and bringing them in? Was that a full-time job on the night?
Yes, well, I guess there was only a couple of people that didn't really know each other, just from all the coffee, because we've had a few events really during the year. So we just chatted with them, and everybody had their name and their Instagram handle on. So, it's always nice because sometimes some people don't post photos. So then you say, oh, that's you, I didn't know that was you. So that was really nice. And what I loved about it is that they're nearly all young, which
I love hearing that.
Yeah, they're really young and they love, I've really noticed it. Even my middle daughter, the one that lives in Melbourne, she started sewing. She wants to learn. And I think that more than I can remember, I reckon there's more young people sewing now than ever before. And I think it's thanks to a lot of the indie pattern companies, all the smaller pattern companies that are making fairly, what's the word? I'm not going to say easy, but achievable.
Yes.
And they've got that sort of box look, which is, pretty trendy.
Yeah.
So I think if you can, now I'm getting on my soapbox, but if you take away sewing rules and you just say to somebody, just who cares? Sew it up. It's a foot in the door, and then they're hooked, literally hooked.
Yes.
It's that horrible thing where, we're all different, even though we're from the same tribe. And I feel as if, I use fold over elastic, and I do that because it just seems to work. And I really find that I get some feedback down the track. People who now use fold over elastic tell me, oh, when I saw that, I thought, you're a cheat.
Yeah.
And I thought, really? I was kind of thinking you'd think, oh, I might try that because that looks easy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's such an interesting response. And then they're like, oh, we tried it. and it really does give a good finish. And I'm like, glad you found that. I thought it's, you know, I don't look at something really complicated and go, why did you waste your time? I look at it and think, wow, that is like a piece of art. It's not like there's a place for every one of us with the different ways that we go about making things. I mean,
but
I
think
love that.
Historically in sewing there wasn't. So, you know, it was a skill taught to young women. And just like, you know, any other skill back then, typing, you know, there were rules, and some people still carry those rules. And I get comments sometimes. I know once I made something with unfinished seams, you know, exposed seams. And I was told that you do not finish your seams like that. But that was the whole design element in the jacket, you know. So they're actually, that was really funny because I just said thank you. No, but other people in the comments looked after it for me.
Oh, that's
it's a big community. That's right.
So
it's funny how the rock throwing still seems to come out, which you really wonder. Everyone's reading what you're saying, and then if you go to the person who threw the rocks, isn't it funny that most of the time that person's got a private account? And we don't see the face. And it's like, honey, if you're going to throw rocks, let's do it from the same platform. It's like you really are.
I don't know. I don't know about you ladies, but I haven't been trolled very much at all, really.
No, I haven't. I just delete them. Meridy, I just delete them pretty quickly. It's like, nah.
I think the community's it's really nice. Really nice.
I agree.
You know?
And look, when I was learning in high school, yes, there were rules, but we had certain teachers who would enforce them to the point of being, you know, you're being traumatized. So I've always stayed away from those sorts of people. It's like, thanks. Anyway.
And I think sewing skills are what you want them to be. Like, you can be really good and that's where you're heading. That's what you want. But then you bring it down and, you know, to someone that's just been sewing for a few years and they just want to get, you know, something on and get out the door. And that's really good too, you know. So, it's interesting. But as I said, it was really good that there's so many young women there.
That's so good to hear. And look, well, you never know, we might all meet at Ayers Rock one day and have a big frocktails event. Who knows?
Well, that'd be great.
Not on top of the rock though, Meridy. I don't think they let you up there anymore.
No, not anymore. I hope that's been a little bit of help about frocktails.
Oh, loads of help about frocktails, about making sure that you look the way you want to look. And, you know, how to bring people together when they live in such remote areas as well.
That's been the most amazing thing, really. Like I said to you, one, that most of them are young, but and eager to learn, and but it's just this. I've never. I mean, my sister sewed and my mother sewed a bit, but I've never hung around people that sew, and that is just the best thing because, as I said to you earlier, it's another language. You know, and people listening in, they would think, what are they talking about? You know, just anyway, it's lovely.
It's our tribe. It's our tribe, and we understand the lingo, and we understand the tears and the hopes and the disappointments. But if we can all kind of band together, and it's not I'm better than you because I can sew better. I mean, let's throw that one out the back door.
Exactly.
It's not about that at all. It's the whole experience, isn't it? The whole enchilada.
Yeah. Meridy has shown us that being part of a Frocktails event is kind of like a way of finding your tribe. Everyday people who love to sew and be creative get together at Frocktails or other functions, and it's really great that Meridy, Betty and Fiona have been doing this work for Adelaide people. That's just part one of our chat with Meridy Dunn. If you enjoyed listening to Meridy today, follow her on Instagram, have followed her on Instagram. If you enjoyed listening to Meridy after following her on Instagram, stay tuned for part 2, where Meridy talks about her sewing life, her sewing training, and her views on indie pattern designers. There's a lot of information that was just part 1 of our chat with Meridy Dunn. If you enjoyed listening to Meridy and after following her on Instagram, stay tuned for part 2. Part 2 is where Meridy talks to us about the training that she's doing in becoming a pattern designer, the sewing that she's doing for her family, and her views on indie pattern designers. Subscribe to Sew Organised Style podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and Castbox. If you enjoy listening to Sew Organised Style podcast, tell your friends about us and follow us on Instagram. We've got our website, which has all the show notes of every podcast that we do. Thanks for joining us on Sew Organised Style podcast.